Ripple and XRP to surpass Bitcoin and Tether. That's the title of today's episode, and I'm going to explain why, in my opinion, Ripple stablecoin is set to surpass Tether for the number one stablecoin by market cap and volume. You guys have already heard that prediction. And then we've previously talked about how XRP has flipped not only Ethereum, but Bitcoin. Can it happen again? I think there's a good chance. And I'm going to show you the setup here as the rest of the space, including Bitcoin and Tether, is heading into lawsuits, heading into the storm of regulatory uncertainty. Are we going to get sued? Are we going to get taken out? And then the Mt. Gox distributions are still underway, despite what the Bitcoin maxis have been trying to tell everybody, that everything's going to be fine. The Mt. Gox selling pressure is over, the government selling pressure is over, and then another government pops up. The Mt. Gox distributions are over, and then we find out, no, there's still another 2 billion Bitcoin on the move. So in this episode, we're going to cover it, folks. I want to start off with what's been happening in the markets and the activity that we're seeing as far as the economic data. Let's take a look at it. The DXY back down at 102 right now today, and this is based off of an assumption that we are definitely getting rate cuts because we have traders see big drop in interest rates in 2025 at risk of underestimating inflation. The question facing the Fed and market participants is whether you believe inflation is going to come down anyway, in which case there is no cost to cutting interest rates, says economist Derek Tang. Now we move on over to the wholesale inflation data that came out today, and it shows few warning signs, and a Fed interest rate cut is still on track. So prices have calmed down since the big spike in 2021 and 2022, and this is PPI, which is the producer price index, and it's a gauge of wholesale inflation, right? Now, even better, the cost of partly finished goods and raw materials showed no evidence of accelerating costs. These prices tend to climb when inflation is about to get worse. Unless inflation shows a surprising and unlikely surge, this month the Fed is all but certain to cut U.S. interest rates at its mid-September meeting. Now, this is the same market that priced in, 6 rate cuts last year, 7 rate cuts this year. We still haven't gotten one, but now it's a certainty. Now it's a certainty. And it's also an expectation now that the market has, and it says it right here in this article that I first showed you, that the Fed is going to cut by 200 basis points or 2%. Right now, the Fed target is 5.25 to 5.5. And there's, predicting now that by July of next year, we're going to see rates down to 3.25 to 3.5. So a 200 basis point cut, that's 2%. And once again, this is the same market that was expecting 6 last year, 7 this year, and we still haven't gotten any. And then they were all getting all hopeful of that emergency rate cut after Japan blew up last week. That hasn't come. Doesn't look like it's going to come. But we're going to watch because CPI comes out tomorrow, the consumer price index, wholesale coming down. And so now the market's expectation of rate cuts is fueling the market even higher. And this is why we saw, like I said, the DXY back down because rate cuts are coming, the dollar is going to weaken. And we're seeing stock market up, Dow Jones, NASDAQ 100, S&P 500, all back up after they blew up with a major correction, down 10% for the S&P 500. For the NASDAQ 100, it was down, I got to remeasure that. It was 15% for the NASDAQ. That's approaching bear market territory. And for the Dow Jones, it was 7%. Now we're back up here. We get a little bit of a pop, and we're having ourselves a little bit of a party based off of basically a certainty that we're going to get the rate cuts. Gold had its highest daily close ever yesterday. And right now, today, it's still trading at the same price, basically 2,470. The futures market went above 2,500, but we're going to continue to watch that. Oil spiked as well, cooling a little bit today. But gold and oil signaling war, and the markets and the equity stocks basically signaling rate cuts, soft landing, everything's going to be fine, and war will be avoided. We'll continue to watch that one. Now, in regards to crypto current events, what we're seeing here is the Kamala campaign's trying to play a reset and trying to catch up. And there's news being shared here today that she wants to raise crypto taxes to 28%, but that's not true. It's worse. What she wants to do is not just take the corporate tax rate and not just taxing crypto, but taking the corporate tax rate here from 21% to 28%. Now, this is part of a policy that is being laid out by the Harris campaign, and it's fully in line with Biden's most recent budget proposal, which also calls for taxes on wealthy crypto holders. So most likely we're going to get an increase of taxes on the crypto holders, but we're also going to get a corporate tax rate hike as well. So that's their campaign. That's what they're running with. You guys let me know if you think that that's a good program to be running on, raising the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. And there's, the broader, these are the tax rates that are actually set to expire, I think later next year. At some point next year, the Trump tax cuts are set to expire. And so if they don't get approved, we're going to see taxes go back up. But then the Kamala campaign saying they're going to take corporate from 21 to 28, and they're not coming out and denying that they're going to raise and come up with a new tax for wealthy crypto holders. Now, they're trying to cover up this part of the campaign as well, which is now trying to say they want to remove taxes on tips. First it was Trump, now it's Kamala's campaign, but as Kim.com reminds us, Kamala Harris was the single vote majority to increase tax enforcement against tips in the hospitality industry. As a result, the IRS introduced a tip reporting program. There you go. Snitch on the service workers. How about that program? Wow. Now she's calling for tax-free tips because Trump did. And like I said, there's no way to catch up. They're not willing to come out and say that they're going to fire Gary Gensler. They're not coming out and saying that we're going to be leaders in this space. They're not coming out and saying anything about this space. But they got the Crypto for Harris little Twitter page that's trying to pump everybody up. They're not denying that they want to raise corporate taxes. And, that's going to affect everybody. This is not just an attack against crypto holders. This is an attack against every American that's trying to build a business. And folks think, oh, no, this is just the big bad corporations. They can pay their fair share. No, the problem is we already have overspending. We already have waste. We have no accountability, and we need to rein this thing back in before we talk about any more increases in taxes. And we need to start moving in the direction of cutting taxes, which is what Trump started by saying no tax on tips. He's also saying that he wants to do no tax on Social Security. So I'm saying the Kamala campaign, they have some catch up to do. Now, what we're seeing right now is the mainstream media in a full meltdown. Only bad headlines from the legacy media about Elon's Trump interview. They hate Elon for eating their lunch and Trump for having a bigger reach than ever without them. Add the editors on the deep state payroll and it all makes sense. The problem, now everyone wants to listen. And this is why Twitter was getting attacked and crashed, but they couldn't stop it. CNN in total meltdown over Trump-Elon space. Quote, it began with 40 minutes of silence and then an apocalypse of politics. So dramatic. No matter how you frame it or what caused the glitch, what was finally said between Donald Trump and Elon Musk at last night's Big X event can largely be defined as a rant filled with familiar lies and lines of attack. And then we see the Harris campaign on the Trump-Elon interview saying, quote, Donald Trump's extremism and dangerous Project 2025 agenda is a feature, not a glitch of his campaign. Oh, they thought they were slick with that one, didn't they? Which was on full display for those unlucky enough to listen in tonight during whatever that was on X. Trump's entire campaign is in service of people like Elon Musk and himself, self-obsessed rich guys who will sell out the middle class and who cannot run a live stream in the year 2024. Well, that's great. That's great. Let's get Kamala. Let's get her on a space. They can host it. If they know how to host a live stream in 2024, host one. Let's do one. Let's do a Q&A. Put in your own CNN talking head pundits to give you softball questions. Just put yourself in front of a camera for an hour and without a script. Without a script. I mean, that's the kicker that we'd like to see. And once again, I'm just trying to stay neutral. I know everybody got all worked up over politics. But you have to understand what's at play here, and you got to hedge your bets both ways. If Trump gets elected, what's going to happen to our economy? What's going to happen to my investments? If Kamala or Joe or whoever wins, what's going to happen? We got to hedge. We got to understand. This is all part of the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. And no matter who gets elected, we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of it. And it's very clear to me that they're in full panic making up bold-faced lies. Project 2025 is nothing that I've heard, is something that I've never heard one Republican that I know even bring up. Nobody is even talking about Project 2025 besides the mainstream media and the Kamala campaign that's trying to run with this. And I'm saying if the Kamala campaign wants to stand a chance, just do a live show then. Do 2 hours unscripted and show that you can hang with Trump. You make it sound easy. You can run a live stream in 2024, but they can't. Well, then do it. Show up or shut up. Do you actually want to win this campaign? Show up or shut up. Ro Khanna, this is a Democrat, and we got to pay some respect here to Ro Khanna because he's now flipped and he's trying to understand crypto. He's calling up Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, and other executives in the cryptocurrency space, admitted his wrongs, along with a few other politicians that are finally coming around to cryptocurrency. But Ro Khanna says it right here. In America, we value free speech, including conversations like the one Elon Musk is having tonight with ideas and opinions people may dislike or even find offensive. We don't censor. Ironic, this used to be a European idea advocated by someone named John Stuart Mill. And we're watching what's taking place as far as free speech in the UK. We're watching what's taking place over in Europe. But now here back home, we have a segment of our population that wants to, basically would wish that the talk didn't happen last night, that the space didn't occur. No, this is the problem in this country is we need to be having more of these conversations in a town hall style Q&A. And I understand it was softball questions from Elon. I was critical of that in last night's live show. I went live right after they finished up the space. And that was one of my criticisms was we didn't get to enough policy conversation. Trump dominated the conversation over Elon, and Elon basically was just trying to pitch himself, potentially for being part of Trump's team and his cabinet, which I think Elon could do a decent job, but the point being, we got to have the conversation. This shouldn't be political. And what's now being forced on the issues as far as pro-crypto, this is what I'm getting excited about. The conversations about lower taxes, this is what I'm getting excited about, is because Trump's playing his cards and it's forcing the other side to acknowledge, well, why are you guys trying to raise corporate tax? Why are you trying to increase taxes on crypto holders? Why are you specifically targeting this industry? And now you want to do a reset after you guys have been specifically targeting this industry and asking for more budget to go after this industry. But yet you let all the frauds go about. But you're letting this space do all the pump and dumps that go bust and give our space a bad name. And then you go after legitimate institutional players like Ripple. Why is this happening? It's too late for a reset. You can't play catch up to a presidential candidate that's saying, I'm going to fire the SEC chair. That's a direct policy thing. I wish that Trump and Elon would have talked about crypto last night, but they didn't. But the point being here, the issues that are being forced into the public conversation, this is perfectly aligned with how we're invested with sound money, gold, silver, precious metals, digital form of sound money, XRP. If you like Bitcoin, if you think that's sound money, God bless you. That's great. It's not for me. And here's why. And here's why I titled this video, Ripple XRP to Surpass Tether and Bitcoin. Is because Bitcoin still has these whales that are coming in to dump, and they're still trying to cover this Mt. Gox distribution. They were telling us that this was over. No, it's not. It's far from over. This is from Arcam Intel. A wallet that received $2.19 billion worth of Bitcoin from Mt. Gox has just initiated test transactions. This wallet is likely BitGo, the fifth and final exchange working with Mt. Gox trustees to distribute funds to Mt. Gox creditors. Are they about to distribute to creditors? Well, they confirmed it is BitGo. Just an hour later, just an hour or so ago, they did confirm. And so this is why I'm saying XRP is going into full clarity, and now we're starting to see real utility. And we're seeing utility that comes in that's not completely different from speculation that comes and goes. Speculation comes and goes. That's why our entire cryptocurrency space has been pump and dumps. That's why Bitcoin has been pumped up and had these huge drawdowns as well. What we're seeing, and it's going to take 5 to 10 years to establish. Don't think that this happens overnight. What we're seeing is a utility start to build up here for XRP that will continuously drive the price up and maintain a floor base price of XRP. Now, we're still a long ways from this being implemented, But you look at the rest of the space, they don't even know what's going on. The Bitcoin bros have been saying that the Mt. Gox distribution is over, and they've been saying that nobody was going to sell. Oh, there might be a little bit of selling pressure, but they're just going to, this is what the Bitcoin bros were saying, because I go in and I listen on their spaces just to understand their thought process. They were saying that these guys were going to, market makers were going to push Bitcoin down lower so that they could buy cheaper Bitcoin, and that the Mt. Gox distributions were going to go to folks that were going to do the same thing. They were going to sell off just so that they could buy back lower. Maybe that happened. Bitcoin's back up to 61,000 this morning. Dollar index is down. Bitcoin stocks back up to 61,000 for Bitcoin. But the comparison that I'm making here, full clarity, institutional utility, retail level utility and adoption happening on the XRP ledger as well, top down and bottom up. It's a beautiful setup here. Everybody gets the access to the same XRP ledger, all of the utilities, functions, and efficiencies that come with it. Meanwhile, with Bitcoin, you can't do anything. We still don't know what's going on. With Ethereum, we just reported on it last night. $150 million coming in from a disguised whale just this month so far. And they got more. And it's a disguised Ethereum whale from the ICO. This is the ICO Ethereum. Hopefully they got the special deal from Vitalik and the gang, the special investment contract. Now, when it comes to Tether, well, Tether fired back up the money printer today. Of course. Legitimate institutional investors allegedly send another $1 billion to the Tether fraud, which has been sanctioned repeatedly for lying about the reserves, laundering billions of dollars for the Russian government sanctions evasion, has been reported for laundering money for terrorists, has repeatedly been called out by Congress for illicit financing and facilitating criminal activity to buy Tethers to buy Bitcoin, instead of just buying Bitcoin directly for dollars. And this is the scheme. Basically, they are suggesting that institutions are buying Tether. They're sending $1 billion cash to Tether so that Tether can print another $1 billion of Tether. No, it's not. It's not true. It's a lie. It's been a lie, and they continue to perpetuate this lie despite the criminal activity. Now, why have I explained? How have I explained why Tether's allowed to do this? Because just like Trump said, U.S. dollar stablecoins are going to be the key to expanding U.S. dollar dominance. The United States is so desperate to keep the reserve currency status that they're allowing Tether to go about and do this, mostly outside of the United States, because it gets people around the world into a derivative of the U.S. dollar. It just happens to be in digital form in USDT. That's why the fraud and manipulation is being allowed to continue. Now, the problem is that they're not in the clear. And don't take it from me. This is not me saying this. This is the CEO of Tether saying that MiCA is creating systemic risk, and he's concerned about the MiCA regulations. Oh, I bet you are there. I bet you are. Take a listen in. This is Paulo Ardoino from Tether.
The problem that I have with, and we have with MiCA, is that instead of making the system more secure, is actually creating an incredible big systemic risk, not only for stablecoins, but also for the underlying banking system.
Now, I'm going to summarize what he says, is that basically because they have to hold 60% of their reserves cash in banks, it's not going to be insured. Well, compare this with Ripple. Where does Ripple get to keep their collateral? Well, they get to keep it not at a bank, but at a trust company, Standard Custody and Trust, where they already have the overhead and the expenses in place to run that business that, can cover those expenses. So they basically have zero cost associated with storing that collateral. And their collateral will be insured because they're keeping their collateral with the trust company, unlike what Tether CEO is worried about. He's going to have all these banking relations to have his reserves insured, right? And he says this is going to be a problem not only for us, but systemically for the banks as well. Well, they got a lot of problems. And the reason why you've been allowed to continue with your criminal activities is because you're helping these guys cover their butts. We've seen where the flow of this Tether and where it's gone from Bitcoin, the Tether that went to FTX, the Tether that went to Celsius, and that's why they're being sued. And this is why, when you put this all together, XRP is ready to surpass Bitcoin, Ripple stablecoin ready to surpass Tether. You guys let me know in the comments down below what you think about this prediction. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I'm going to be reading all the comments. And if you appreciate my updates, please make sure to like this video, share it out far and wide, and everything can be found at ZachRector.com. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.